Our great friend Jeff had this to say about T-strings. Let's see if I can give Jeff an owl. I'm in a little demo project, Nightly Build PyCharm. Thank you, PyCharm team, for giving me early T-string support. And this is kind of the workflow for how you might see T-strings in action. I'm going to compare it a little bit to F-strings. So down here, I have some value, and then I want to make a string out of it. So I got the static part, I got the dynamic part. And when this evaluates with an F in front of it, it becomes a string, an str. If I change that to a T-string, it's no longer a string. It's a template, which really isn't that useful. Because what you want to do with a template string is pass it to a function that has business logic that can convert it into a string while doing the logic along the way. And this is why it's good for domain-specific languages. And I've got a business policy at work where all of the static parts need to be lowercase and all the dynamic parts need to be uppercase. So I'm going to write a template function called lower upper, and it's going to take a template. How do I know it takes a template? Because Paulie likes type hints. And in this case, it's going to return a string, an str, but it can return anything that can be string-like, that has the dunder str to convert it to a string later. When we get into this function, I'm going to assemble a list of things that I will turn into a string on the way out the door. And these template instances, thanks to Dave Peck and others, have Lissandros for implementing it, Dave for managing it in the PEP, have a dunder iter. So you can iterate over a template and be given each part, the static part and the dynamic part, called an interpolation. And when you get to each one of these items, you can say, hey, if I'm an interpolation, do this thing. But if I'm just a string, do that thing. So for example, if I run this, I get lowercase, uppercase. That was pretty boring. So let's run it under the debugger, because everybody should always be debugging, right? Always be debugging. I'm going to stop on that. And because this is very F-string-like, PyCharm's existing support for debugging F-strings kicks in, and I can step into the execution of this. So I'm in my function that was passed a template. Here is what it looks like. And we get the original structure. We get things like the static parts and the value parts and the interpolation parts. What's an interpolation look like? We get all the original information, including the value as it was evaluated in the scope over there. Now I can just go ahead and start stepping over this. And as I go through each item in the template, I'm on the static part, the first item, and it's going to match as a string. Using structural pattern matching here, you could do an if you wanted to. And because this was a string, my lower upper business logic says, hey, strings, static strings should be converted to lowercase. Next item through is an interpolation. See, interpolation. And as I go into this case matches. And it's like, hey, you're an interpolation. My business rule says convert you to uppercase. And then I join all the parts together and I head on the way out the door.